Hi everybody, it's Vivek here from Meaningful Ideas, and today I want to talk about something a little bit challenging. Why I suggest when one kid hits another, not to respond with any wrongness, not to respond with anything but kindness. Kindness from an emotionally centered, wise adult. My saying is, when I see one kid hit another, I don't see a victim and an aggressor. I see two struggling, suffering kids that need the wise guidance. They need the guidance of an emotionally centered, wise adult. And this is the thing. We have the opportunity to be the emotionally centered, wise adult. But it's challenging in that moment because, first of all, kids are so vulnerable and small. We want to protect them. So when one kid's getting hit, of course we want to protect them, of course, and should be, right? Should be. I want that sense of wanting to protect them to be turned up to 11. Yes, I'm 100% in that. But what happens is there's also an emotional and nervous system reaction that comes with that makes us act in ways that actually don't protect them. And that's the problem. So what we want to do is take that urgency to protect them and then think, what's the way that we can most effectively protecting them? Yelling at the other kid that did the hitting is not going to protect them. Ignoring them is not going to protect the one that got hit. This is the thing that we forget. The kid who did the hitting, whether it's a 10-year-old hitting a 5-year-old or a 2-year-old hitting a 1-year-old or a 13-year-old hitting the 6-year-old, and it's such a common thing to happen. Hitting is one of the most common questions that I get from parents. And so it's a big sample size that I've been observing for many years. And I'll tell you, kids hitting each other and hitting their parents is one of the most common questions I get. And it's always like, I've never hit my child and they've never seen it. Why are they doing it? And it seems like a mystery, but it's not a mystery. Like the 800th time I read that question in, 2 or 3 years, I tell you it's not a mystery. It's just the way, it's what happens. It's one of the reasons that I say, because it's what happens so often, so often. It's a natural part of their development. So punishing them for it doesn't make sense because it's who they are. They're developing through it. What we want to do, and here's the thing, what we want to do is we want to help them learn how to manage that part of themselves. And this is the thing, right? So there's a few reasons why I suggest responding with kindness and empathy for everybody involved when one kid hits another, as not only the kindest thing to do, but also the most effective thing to do to keep everybody safe. Because here's the thing, right? So first of all, if we project wrongness onto the kid who did the hitting, whether we punish them or we ignore them or we yell at them or whatever we do, but for me, even wrongness is too much. It's wrongness. It's wrong that you hit. You can't hit. I can't let you hit. All of that. All of it is telling them they're doing something wrong. They know number one, they know they're doing something wrong. It's not their preference. Even if they're laughing for a protective reason, a defensive reason. They're not really laughing. Otherwise, you have to think my child is cruel. Not as acting cruel for some reason that we can work through together. That's different. But if you say they are cruel, then I don't know where you go from there. I don't want to believe my child is cruel. I don't want to believe I am cruel, even though I've acted cruelly many times in my life, But I know now, I'm 53. I know now it's in response to the pain that I've experienced, the trauma that I've experienced. And I do self-empowerment workshops in prisons as a volunteer, have been for a decade. It's really my mother's program. My mother, her name is Shivani, and she's an amazing being. And she created this program called Freedom Thinkers, and she takes it into a prison. And every week for 10 years, she teaches a self-empowerment course in this prison. And I go in as a guest speaker once a month. That's why I say I've been doing it for a year, because once a month is still pretty good. And I go in as a guest speaker once a month, and I'm her chauffeur the rest of the time. Now this woman, my mother, who I admire very much, her whole philosophy is based on no wrongness. She goes in and she shows those guys a side of themselves they haven't seen before, a side where somebody only sees their goodness. She has the iceberg consciousness, very, very clear, right? She sees right through to their souls, and she says, you're good fundamentally. Fundamentally, you're love. This is your nature. and you lost that along the way. You can find it again, and it opens their hearts. And this person, I mean, she spends 2 hours a week for 6 weeks in a course. And when these guys come out of her course, they are completely transformed. And this isn't just my opinion. Her course in the prison over the 10 years or so that she did it became the most requested, just from word of mouth, became the most requested program in the institution. More than all the other ones, the official ones, the legislative ones, the volunteer ones. She had a waiting list of 50 inmates at any time that wanted to take her program. Plus, it was the most recommended and prescribed program in the institution, even though they didn't really know what she was teaching. But these guys would come out of her program transformed, talking about empowerment, talking about spreading love, talking about being honest and true to themselves, talking about their values, talking about their dreams, and sharing it with the other prisoners so that they're signing up for the course. And then they're like, okay, well, we should send people to the course. and this is in prison with no wrongness. So this is the transformation that can happen. It's the same reason that I've been cruel. But these people, my mom's saying is, I've been working in prisons for a decade, and I've never met a bad person. I get choked up when I think of her saying that. And it's because she believes that these lives are changed. This is what we want for our kids, right? This is what the no wrongness philosophy is all about, that we help them see themselves. If you punish a kid for responding to their situation in the best way they know how, even though it's not a good way, but if you punish a kid for that, whether it's an actual punishment or like an emotional, relational punishment, the message that they get is that they're not good. They don't learn the self-awareness that it takes and the self-knowledge that it takes to make a different choice in those moments. And that's really what it takes, is self-awareness, and like a certain amount of brain development too as kids grow. But punishing kids for being kids is not, it doesn't make sense, because then what happens is, the pattern is that I deserve punishment for being who I am. So that's one of the problems with it, right? The other problem is that we end up, so the first problem is the self-image that it creates, right? And the relationship to mistakes, the relationship to their development, their self-awareness, their self-love, that whole thing that we're nurturing, right? Part of parenting is nurturing that. It's not just the behavior. That's what iceberg consciousness is about, right? We need to be nurturing their relationship with themselves, their self-talk, their self-image, how they perceive the world, what they think about their values and their place in it. Like, this is really important stuff to be thinking about. And in a moment where one kid hits another or kicks another or something, that's like one of those moments that we have the most opportunity to guide them. When we respond with kindness in those moments, there's a guidance that happens there that you can't get any other way. That touches the heart that you can't get in any other way. But it takes a lot of discipline to do it. It takes a lot of effort, I know. This is why I work with parents week after week after week for years and years, right? It's not like a 6-week course, although when I do come up with a 6-week course, you should take it. I haven't done it yet. But like week after week, we work hard, right? It's hard work. I don't want to say it's not hard work. And then every time you have more challenges in life, financial challenges, or, if you face marginalization from some part of your identity or your demographic, all these things make, depending on where you live in the world and the political climate, and your family history, there's so many layers. And that's why when you work with someone regularly, you can go through those layers patiently and systematically and in a really supportive way. It's really wonderful. I really feel so fortunate to be able to work with people on a regular basis, because we get to go through that and dig through that on a long-term basis, which is so powerful and so profound. I love doing that. I feel very fortunate to be working with people who are so dedicated to the mindset. So the thing is, the modeling that we're doing is this. This is the thing, the modeling that we're doing. This is the next thing. So our kid, let's say the kid just hit another. So when I was young, for example, my mom and I were just talking about this incident the other day. When my sister was coming down the stairs, I was maybe 7, she was maybe 4, something like that. We have about 2.5 years apart from us. She was coming down the stairs on her, sliding down her butt one at a time, and I took a sharpened pencil and I put it under her butt when she came down one step, and she landed right on the sharpened pencil, went right into her butt. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We're best friends now, but we're not then, let me tell you. I still remember that moment. I wasn't a cruel person. You know, I could remember that moment. I could feel like there was a lot of resentment in me. There was some kind of curiosity. I wasn't really sure about the cause and effect. I kind of knew it would hurt her, but I wasn't 100% clear on that. How much it would, you know? It was all like very much of a jumble. It wasn't like just clear cut. And there was a lot of layers to it. But I could never express that, especially not in that environment, you know? So I never had a chance to process that. So when kids do things like that, there's a lot going on for them. And if we can be the space for them to, to process, then we have the most chance to influence them. So here's the thing, though, right? So the kid is responding, trying to get their needs met, and managing their emotions the best that they can. And what they do is they use violence. Now, what do we want to teach them? We want to teach them, hey, kiddo, you don't have to respond with violence in those moments. Here are some other tools, because your needs are important and your feelings are important. And I can understand you really were trying to deal with it, right? I understand that. And I want to help you deal with it. I want to help you deal with it and keep your sibling safe. I want to do both because your needs are so important. See, I'm not putting any wrongness into it. I can still mention keeping the kid safe, but I'm not blaming the kid at all. Right? This is how we can talk to our kids about things like boundaries without wrongness. So I want to keep your siblings safe, but I really want to help you with the situation because those situations are so hard. Those moments are so hard. I want to be here for you. We can learn other ways that are better, you know, and make you feel better. Because really, what I want is for you to feel better. Because those moments don't feel really good to us, right? When we end up like that, it's no fun. It's not really fun for us, and it's not helpful for us, right? And that's what I want to do. I want to help you with that. Right? And so maybe we can learn together, and then you're learning together. I've never had a kid in all my years working with kids, and I've worked with kids for years so much. One day I'm going to make a video just talking about how much I've worked with kids in the school system, teaching martial arts, teaching dance. I've done a lot. Volunteering at youth organizations and youth conferences, doing anti-bullying workshops in schools. Coaching sports teams. Like it's an unending stream of experiences I have with kids, and just in grocery stores, like everywhere I go, and I use the no wrongness mindset. I've never had a kid not want to explore with me. I've never had a kid not want to collaborate with me because they feel so respected, right? And I hold space for their awkward learning process. This is the thing, right? When one kid hits another, there's the awkward learning process right in your face. What are you gonna tell them about their awkward learning process? That they're bad for having the awkward learning process? No. Anyway, so I still haven't got to the modeling part. I go on tangents. I can't help it. Anyway, so that's how my mind works. So I'm sharing my mind with you. I really just try to share my mind and heart with you, and you take it how you will and use it how you will. That's where it's really important. So the modeling. So the kid has all of this stuff happening, and they use violence to get their need met. And to deal with their feelings. Those two things. To get their needs met, this is kind of NVC, right? To get their needs met and to deal with their feelings. They use violence. That's what happens. And we want to teach them not to use violence, so then we come in with violence to try and stop them from using violence, and we're using violence to get our needs met. Our need is to keep the kids safe, right? And to stop them from hitting. So we're using violence to get our needs met, and we're dealing with our feelings in that moment. And that's the thing, right? We also are dealing with our emotions. So we're using violence, the violence of yelling, the violence of a punishment, the violence of even emotional withdrawal. Because some people say ignore the kid who did the hitting and only give attention to the kid who got hit, right? And I'm not like that. I'm like giving equal love to both kids. I call it ping pong empathy. Empathy. Your blocks fell down and you're really upset. You got hit. You should never get hit. I don't want you to be hit. I can understand why you did it. It was really hard for you in that moment. And I'm going to do everything I can to protect you so you don't get hit again. Loving this kid is protecting this kid, because kindness is always the most powerful influence. This is what I want to keep getting across. But we model the opposite, right? We model getting our needs met the same way they're trying to get their needs met. So there's a profound contradiction there. And how can we tell them not to hit when we're doing a hit, whether it's physical or emotional, relational, environmental, whatever it is? It's still a kind of a hit, right? It still hurts. And so now we want to shift that whole mindset of responding to aggression with aggression and model what we really want. So when I have that feeling that I want to jump in, not jump in aggressively, right? Jump in with wrongness. When I have that feeling and I want to react that way, respond that way, no, I'm going to take that breath, the breath that I want my kid to also take. I'm going to take it. And I'm going to reorient myself to kindness. Not ignoring my feelings, I'll deal with my feelings. My feelings are natural and valid too, because they come from my experience and my desire to protect. Fine. But I don't want to project the aggression of it onto my kid. So I take responsibility and I find myself back to my kindness. How can I possibly expect that of my 3-year-old if I'm not at least practicing it? Maybe you fail 1,000 times. Believe me, failing is part of life. It's how we learn. In fact, I am speaking at a conference coming up at the end of April. April 26th actually is the date, at the Parenting Forward conference called Parenting is Revolutionary. And I really would love you to join. I'm going to put the link in the comments so that you can join. And I have a 15% off code that you can use. But the topic I'm talking about is recovering from a parenting mistake and how to do that. And how to do that in a way that we really can embrace the change. We can really learn from it. But if we have shame around it, we can't learn from it. It's harder to learn from it, right? It's the same for our kids. If they have shame, it's harder for them to learn any kind of lesson from the situation. And so what they're learning experientially is that, oh, the parent is doing the same thing to me that they're telling me not to do to the kids. So experientially, in my nervous system, I'm being programmed to do the same thing. I'm not being given the experience of the opposite. I always want to give kids the experience of the opposite so they know how good it feels. You know, just a few experiences of being deeply seen and felt and met can really radically change how a kid operates in the world. You know, I had this one parent, the kid was hitting, and and as soon as they would hit, they would laugh and run away. And if they would say, "Why are you hitting?" they would just laugh, right? And they would say, I don't know, always I don't know. And so then she started to work with me, and she learned about no wrongness, and she learned about YANIT, which is you are not in trouble. That's one of my acronyms, you are not in trouble. And it doesn't matter what happens, it should be that your kid never feels like they're in trouble. You are not in trouble is that when the kid does something like that, you want them to know for sure that they're not in trouble, you're there to help. Right? And just that attitude. It's a bit of an attitude change. It's the same change I'm talking about just now, right? Is to have the YANIT attitude, the YANIT mindset, that you are not in trouble. So then she would say to her kid, as soon as he would hit her, she would say, you're not in trouble. It's okay, you're not in trouble. And it was, at the first few times he didn't know how to react, he would still run away. And then he started to really hear her, and then she said, you know, after like a few days of me really telling him over and over again, it suddenly clicked, and he just stopped, and it's like something in his brain clicked, and he was like, oh, and he didn't run away. He didn't need to run away. So all of a sudden, it was this change for her. She was amazed, you know. And then after a little while, he was still doing the hitting, but then he wouldn't run away. He would just stand there and wait, and then she would offer him empathy. And then she would ask why, and then he started to actually explain why. He started to be able to self-reflect. He could never self-reflect when the wrongness was there. It wasn't safe, but now he could stop. And just think about it, right? He could stop. And he could take a pause with a safe guide, even the one he just hit. And he could self-reflect, and he could learn about it. I mean, better that he learns about himself when he's 3 than when he's 30, right? And has to start the process of learning. I mean, my goodness, I was probably in my 20s when I first really thought that I needed to learn about myself and know myself, you know. And that's so I've been trying to figure out who I am all this time. I wanted my kid to know from the beginning who they are. I mean, when babies are born, they know who they are, right? You know, to a large degree, their consciousness doesn't have all the labels and compartmentalizations that we do. There's some, but not all that we do. And then necessarily the compartmentalizations happen and the labels happen necessarily. But one thing that we can do as parents by operating from kindness rather than wrongness is that we can preserve that self-knowledge even as the labels come along, so that the wrongness doesn't get attached, and they have to separate from themselves, or they have to separate from other people to protect themselves. There are better ways to protect ourselves than separation. We can be connected and be strong within ourselves, but that's not what happens. Kids can't do that. It's not safe for them. Now, there's a fourth reason why not to project wrongness and punishment of any kind, but only to respond with kindness. Another reason is that if kids know that we're going to operate that way when they do something like that, they're going to start hiding it from us. When they know, it's what I call reliable unpleasantness. When they know they're going to get some unpleasantness reliably with certain kinds of actions, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to stop the action, because they haven't adopted a value that would lead to them choosing to not do the action. That's different. To choose to not do the action because it's the kind of person you want to be, and it's your own thinking. And yes, young kids can do that. That it's their own thinking. That's sustainable. But the other one where we're just doing it because of the adults, that's not so sustainable, right? And so if we want to do that, we don't want them hiding it from us, right? And so that's the problem with wrongness also, is the kids will hide. I hid so much from my parents. Like when I tell my mom some of the stuff I used to get into now, she's like, I had no idea. And I'm like, yeah, I know. That was the point, My mom always says our parents teach us to lie to them, and it's so true. And I did not want that with my kid, right? I did not want that. So there's four main reasons. One is their self-image, their relationship with themselves. Two is the modeling that it does, and how that works. Three is it's not safe for them to learn the lesson, right? Three is it's not safe for them to self-reflect because they have to run away. They have to protect from the wrongness. And four is that we teach kids to lie to us when we project wrongness, because obviously they don't want to get caught at that point. Thinking of those four reasons not to use wrongness on our kids, let's think about how we do it. So it's really hard. First of all, I said at the beginning, I'm saying it now at the end. I know it's really hard. It's a completely different mindset. To remember that it also has a profound effect in the prison under very harsh circumstances, that very possibly with your kid, it will also have a profound effect. I've seen it throughout the years on so many hundreds of kids and all the families that I work with. It's so profound that when we really get into the no wrongness, it lets kids open up. So I want to really encourage you to start thinking about, and here's the thing, right? To think about that if I want to really protect my kid, kindness is the strongest way I can do it. And it's a different way of thinking about it. It's a different way of perceiving kindness. We think of kindness as weak so often. I don't think of kindness as weak. I don't. I think of it as strong. Let me tell you, I've been doing martial arts for 35 years. I've been punched in the face a lot. I've had my nose broken 7 times. It has all these clicks and clacks. It's one of the ways that I would make my kid laugh is I would play a little symphony on my nose because it has so many broken places. It's been one time I was in the UK. I had been invited to go to a martial arts conference, a 2-week martial arts conference in the UK, and we were doing knife fighting in the forest at night. And somebody got me with an elbow in the nose. Boom! My nose went like this. And we were anywhere near any kind of medical attention. It wasn't, there was no med tent set up anywhere. And so I was just like, okay. And I just like cracked it back into place. And I said, all right, let's go. And so I have these kind of experiences in my past. I'm not doing that so much anymore now that I'm 53. But I have these kind of experiences, right? So when I tell you that, kindness isn't weak, I don't mean it like facetiously. I mean like it's power. Every altercation that I've gotten into in public, and I don't mean like in my younger days when I was an aggressive, angry, always getting into fights young man. I mean like as I actually matured as a martial artist. When I'm out in the world, and there's a fight about to take place, or one person's hassling another, I would usually intervene. And try and bring peace to the situation. And always empathy and kindness always de-escalated the situation every single time. It's an amazing thing to me. And my kid got to witness that a number of times growing up because she just happened to be there. One time we were at the 7-Eleven at Bathurst and Lawrence, and this one guy started yelling and screaming at the poor young man behind the counter and screaming stuff, racist stuff, and the girlfriend was like, please, no, please, let's just go, Johnny. And she's like, no. And my kid was like 4 years old, and I was like, this is so dangerous. And I really thought it was getting to that point where he was going to actually start hitting him, because he was grabbing him like this and shaking him, pushing him and letting him go. I was like, I do not want this to happen. I was at the back of the store. I would have to pass right by them to get out, and I did not want that to happen. And so I had to intervene, and I went up to the guy. I went right into his face. I told my kid, you stand here by the chips and keep your eye on me. And I went up to him, and I got right in his face, and I said, stop. I said, I see that you're angry, and you have every right to be angry. Of course you should be angry. But right now you're acting in a very scary, dangerous way, and you're scaring a lot of people, not just this guy. And I really need you to stop. Look, my 4-year-old is over there. I need you to be careful. And the girlfriend's like, please, Johnny, let's just go. And he's like, fine. And he just walked. He let her drag him out. And I went back to my kid, and I picked her up and I hugged her like this. And she was kind of like, she wasn't scared. I should ask her if she remembers those events, actually. I haven't talked to her about that in a while. She remembers that there was another one that just happened out there where this one woman was chasing another and trying to hit her with a shoe. She was trying to like scratch her face up with her high heels, and I got in between them too. It's like, this has happened to me a lot. And even with that person, you know, like, again, it was like I had my hands up, but it was empathy and kindness and connecting to her humanity in that moment that had her disarmed. She didn't quite want to hit me, even though she was in a rage. She didn't quite want to hit me because I was being so kind. You know, I mean, I was ready to deal with it physically because I know how, but it didn't come to that because it was just so disarming for her. So, you know, the power of kindness is I know it seems radical when one kid's hitting another, but it really is the thing that's going to make such a powerful difference in your kids' ability to see themselves, to learn really deep lessons that we want them to learn about how we want to treat each other, and then to work on it in themselves without feeling like the pressure of wrongness and fear of their parent, and the wrongness and fear of the learning process, right? Let's join with them in their learning process. We know how hard it is. I mean, we can't control ourselves half the time. The 3-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 18-year-old, it's really hard for them. If you're an 18-year-old parent, I'm sorry. I know you're out there too dealing with your 2-year-old, you know? But but even still, it's even so you have your own developing brain and you're trying to care for another developing brain. It's hard. Give yourself a break. So first of all, definitely if you did yell at your kid, give yourself a break. Give yourself kindness and empathy. I always say feck yourself. Feck yourself is forgiveness, empathy, compassion, kindness. F-E-C-K. I always tell parents to feck yourself. Go feck yourself. Because even with me giving you all these reasons and stuff, you still might yell at your kids tomorrow or even today. And I know it's hard when you know you don't want to. But it's still going to happen sometimes, you know? So forgive yourself, have empathy, compassion, kindness, please. Because you want to model that for your kids too. Just don't give up. Don't give up trying. Don't give up on the philosophy. Don't give up believing that kindness is the most powerful thing. You know, don't give up believing in that. Believe in that with all your heart, and then fail 1,000 times and get back up on the horse. You know, get back up on the horse. At least we have the horse, right? Let's just keep getting back up on that horse and believe in it. Believe in it and live it as best as you can with your kids. You know, and reach out for support when you need it. I have so many resources available that I just have, you know, just offer for free. I charge for a few things, but I put so much out for free for everyone. I have almost 100 videos on my YouTube page, at least 20 or 30 videos on my Facebook page as well, which is more than 100, including all the lives. I've written over 500 articles, which you can find on Facebook, and also on my blog, meaningfulideas.com, and so much content. And I also have workshops coming up. I am speaking at the Parenting Forward conference coming up on April 26th. It's the whole week, the conference. My date is the 26th. I'm going to put the link in the comments here, so please come to that. And I'm also doing a workshop on how to process your emotions, which is something that's really important. I'm doing that on April 29th, Friday, April 29th at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm doing that workshop as well as part of the No Spank Challenge by stopspanking.org. And I'm very excited to be doing both of those conferences. And I really love you to join me on my social media at Meaningful Ideas, on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, and meaningfulideas.com. And that's it, everybody. Peace out. Thank you very much. Kindness. What did I say before? Kindness is better than wrongness. Kindness is stronger than wrongness. Something like that. There's a one-liner in there somewhere. I'm going to figure it out. All right. Peace out.